Welcome to BEB Talks, the podcast for the Black Empowers Black group, where we can talk about, well, whatever we want, all while being Black. Please like, comment, and share this podcast with your friends and join in the discussion on the Black Empowers Black Facebook group and YouTube channel. Be heard, be seen, be held. Welcome to the Black Empowers Black podcast. This episode, we have a brand new guest who is the wonderful, the amazing, the beautiful Bella. Bella is a yoga instructor and a proud BV Islander, and today we're going to talk about the black and white picture challenge.
Yeah.
So to give a bit of background into what's happening, and actually, I really enjoyed researching the background to the challenge because I found out some stuff. So basically, the current ruling party in the Turkish government has kind of made some suggestions that they're going to leave what's called the Council of Europe Convention on Combating and Preventing Violence Against Women, or in a short version known as the Istanbul Convention. So the motivation for this is alleged to be that the current party wants to, in quotations, return to more traditional gender roles and family values. And they feel that basically women's reproductive rights and a lot of women's rights pressure groups are essentially masculinizing women and are like hiding the LGBT plus agenda in Turkey. So they're trying to stop all of that. So it's back to the man is the provider, the woman is the housewife kind of model. Now, Turkey already had a very interesting situation with their domestic violence. And since then, they've had like basically a rising number of deaths due to domestic violence, specifically deaths of women. And it's now been termed as a femicide in a lot of the press. So last month, what sort of brought everything to a boil was the murder of a 27-year-old student called Pinar Gultekin. And if I pronounce that name incorrectly, somebody please correct me, by her ex-boyfriend. And when I read about how he murdered her, it was, it was not good.
Yeah.
But this caused basically all the women's rights movements that were already happening in Turkey to just blow up internationally. And one of the things that came out of this was a lot of Turkish women, especially Turkish celebrities, started posting pictures of themselves as black and white. And it was basically sort of hinting at the fact that people would only find out about their friend or coworker or family member being killed by domestic violence by seeing a black and white photo in a newspaper. So it was kind of a like, I could be next, and that's why you should do something about it kind of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But shortly after this started trending, it suddenly became morphed into this social media campaign about empowering women women-run businesses, and all kinds of other stuff, which is why we're having the conversation today. So did you actually receive one of the black and white photo challenge prompts?
I probably received like 12.
Oh, wow.
I received so many, and from people I barely know, which was shocking.
Yeah, I felt the same. And what was your response to it when you saw them?
Well, the first one I received was from someone I do not really know. It was from a lady I'd met once, and she could not remember my name the second time she met me. So that was really shocking when she told me I was such an inspiration to her. And I ignored it. So I was just like, lady, leave me alone. I ignored it. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw from other persons that I know personally, I actually looked at it and I was just like, okay, what is this? It's not March. Why are we talking about women empowerment? And how is a black and white picture empowering anyone? Mm-hmm. So again, I ignored it because at that point I was just like, I'm busy. This is not worth my time. I will look at it maybe next week. Mm-hmm. And then I believe, I'm not sure if you were the first person I saw that actually posted what it was about, or maybe I saw it somewhere else. And that's when I actually took a second to look it up. Mm-hmm. And see what it was actually about. But before then, I'm not going to lie, I was woefully ignorant. I did not even bother looking into it. I just kept scrolling. I literally just kept scrolling as I saw people post pictures of their booty in black and white. Oh my goodness. And I'm just like, okay, whatever.
No, honestly, same. And like, I've had several of those challenges where they're like, take a picture of yourself doing this, take a picture and tag however many people or whatever. And I'm just like, I appreciate that you tagged me, but I will not be. This challenge ends here.
Yeah.
My inbox is where challenges go to die. And it was the same thing. It was like, I do like a monthly culling of my social media. So a lot of people who I'm like, I don't really know you, or I don't like the content that they make, I unfollow them. So the result of that is that the people that I interact with on social media all tend to be like really nurturing, really good for my social network, really informative accounts, which is why I follow you.
Hey.
But yeah, like I think only 2 people sent me the black and white challenge, and yeah, I had been seeing the pictures around, and I was like, oh yeah, exactly as you said, another challenge that I don't have time for. But a friend of mine called Valerie Shainlin started sharing something from an account in Turkey where they were saying, oh, some people have asked me to give insight into why we're doing the black and white photo challenge, and this is the situation in Turkey. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's something completely different. And then I started like digging in deeper and like following the hashtags and stuff. And then I found out about Pinar's death. And then like I read how she died. And there was actually I think it was an infographic or an Instagram post where they posted a picture of women who had died since the start of July, and then how they had been killed. And some of them were like, oh yeah, this person that they knew, their ex-partner, their ex-husband or whatever, their father or grandfather or uncle turned themselves in. And I was like, wait, you have people turning themselves in and you're still unsure about whether or not this is an issue?
And they get off scot-free. That's what's really like troubling about this. It's not just that women are being murdered by men. It's not just that femicide is a thing, but it's become such like a cultural norm that people, they see it and they're like, oh, okay, well, it's another day in Turkey.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was reading about the current party wanting to return to traditional gender roles, traditional family values, I was like, why does that involve the murder of women?
Yeah.
Like, what part of the tradition is that?
I think, here's the thing, right? They're using the people's fear of homosexuality and LGBTQA and the rest of the alphabet. They're using that fear to get rid or to remove themselves from the convention. And it's wrong because the convention is doing so much more than just giving a voice for the LGBTQ community. It's supposed to protect women and children, but it hasn't been implemented in Turkey. Hence the reason why they're having such a surge of murders against women.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a very enlightening for me because there's a family medicine doctor in Turkey that I sort of know in quotation marks, that we never met face to face, but we've interacted a lot online, and I even presented some of her work. But I remember there was one conference where she like basically designed a presentation about domestic violence, and I remember thinking that's a really niche thing for like a family doctor to specialize in. Because we're all sort of trained to look out for it, but like I wouldn't be so focused on it to give a presentation. And then I realized, oh, it's because the situation in Turkey means that she kind of has to, because it's like a whole health issue over there. I was like mind blown. Like it definitely made me very aware of my privilege, because like I was saying before we started the podcast, I talk a lot, I have a lot of opinions, and I usually express most of them without fear. But like, you know, I don't feel that fear of, oh, if I do something wrong, I will embarrass my family's honor and they might try and kill me, or you know, I have to be mindful that I'm under the men in my family and that's my place. I must be so careful not to step outside of that. And I'm just like, what kind of life is that, you know?
But I love that you use that word privilege, because that's exactly what and I say we as in anyone that's outside of Turkey or not in a country where femicide is an issue, that's exactly what we are. We're privileged. Like we don't know that. Even though in America, Black women are, there's a high percentage of murders against Black women by their partners or domestic violence, it's still not to that extent.
Oh, absolutely. And it reminded me of, I read Trevor Noah's book, Born a Crime. And I know, it was so good, right? Yeah. There was a part of it where he talked about his mother's abusive relationship.
Yep.
Where he was like, oh, you know, the first time he hit her, we went to the police and they just laughed about it and said, oh, it's domestic matters. The second time he hit her, he tried to turn himself in and they sent him home and rewarded him for turning himself in by giving him freedom. And then it all ended up with him trying to kill his mother and shoot her. And I was like, like the first
stopped.
Yeah, exactly. The first thing that popped into my mind is that is so Caribbean. Because the way it reminded me is like people would give you such a hard time. They would be like, "Oh my God, that person life's so hard, but they're so lazy, or they're always late," and blah blah. They never actually investigate what's happening. They never offer any help, and then you find out the person killed themselves. I never would have imagined that would happen. It's like there were so many signs.
There were not just signs. The signs came and knocked on your door.
Exactly, and that's exactly how I feel it is. It's like, when you hear these stories of, oh, this person just ended up dead, killed by their boyfriend. And you're just like, it didn't just happen out of the blue.
No.
It took months to get there. And the person probably told somebody.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But back to the black and white challenge. And I think, honestly, I feel like there were two things that I was happy about when I got the challenge and when I knew what it was about. One was how quickly it got international.
That's true. I didn't even think of that.
It was in a number of days that it just blew up, and Pinar was trending.
Mm-hmm.
But then the thing that made me a bit sad was how quickly it got twisted, and Pinar's name was no longer trending. Yeah, and it was no longer about the situation in Turkey or about the Istanbul Convention. It was about, oh, I'm gonna tag 5 of my most beautiful friends. This is a challenge about empowering women. And it's like, yeah, it's like about empowering women, but also to draw attention to this crisis that's happening.
Yeah.
So I wanted to I wanted to pick your brain about it because it was such a black square thing with the Black Lives Matter movement.
See, I don't think it was that bad. I really don't think it was that bad. So here's my thing with the black square thing. Because with the black square, I feel like people felt pressure to post the black square so that way they wouldn't look like they're part of the other. They didn't want to be, mistaken for a racist, right? Everyone was so afraid of that word, or everyone still is so afraid of that word. So everyone posted the black square just to be like, hey, fist in the air, Black Lives Matter. And they knew what the square was about. Everyone knew what the cause was about. But for this, no one had not no one, someone had to have known in order to have twisted it. But most of us had no idea of what it was about, like what the true origins of it was. So for me, this is different because at least with the black square made people realize it was in your face. You racists have nowhere to hide now. Your best friend posted a square. You don't know if maybe they're just doing it to be performative. Maybe they actually do care. It made everyone painfully aware that if you're on the wrong side of history right now, we're watching, we see you. But with this, because we didn't know what the actual meaning of the black and white pictures were, it was easy for people to hop on the bandwagon. People could easily, it was easy for us to ignore it and not, participate because we didn't know what it was about. I feel like this was so much worse than the black square because we didn't even know what it was for. We didn't know what we were ignoring. We didn't know what side of history we're standing on and why, because we didn't know the basis of it.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't think about that. But I mean, the one thing that I found was quite similar between the black square and the black and white photo was how the story got twisted.
True.
And I feel like with the black square, mainly because it was English speaking media, I think that happened a lot faster than with the Turkish campaign.
So when you say twisted, do you mean God, what's the original name of the thing for the black square?
The blackout day?
Yes, blackout.
Yeah.
Well, here's my thing with that, because there were multiple people using that term before. So the one that was that was for people in the entertainment industry. They were not the first to use it. So I heard about Blackout Tuesday or whatever the day of the week was long before they co-opted it and used it for their own thing. So that's why I was really confused why they are now saying, oh, the black square is theirs. Because I'm like, no, it's not. Because the Blackout Tuesday was supposed to happen next month. And it was supposed to be a day where we only spent money on black-owned companies. So I was so confused when they came up and they're like, oh, you guys are co-opting our square. I'm like, but it wasn't yours.
I know. And I felt so... Yours. Exactly. And I felt so heartbroken because the people who had actually put all the research and was trying to build resources so that the blackout could happen on July 7th, actually had to like start a new Instagram page because their handle got hijacked.
Oh.
Yeah, like they started a whole new page, and I was like, that's not fair. You guys were there first. Like, what the hell? But I mean, the blackout day that the music industry artist, whose name I can't remember, I made a caption about it. I don't think their original intention was for people to actually post a physical black square on their timeline. Yeah. What they were saying was, be silent. And somehow people interpret that be silent as, I'm going to tell you that I'm being silent.
Well, you see, and here's my thing. I don't agree with silence as being a part of like being an activist, because you're being silent. Be honest, when celebrities don't post, do you notice?
No.
Okay. And I was just like, you being silent is not really doing anything. What we need, and one thing I did love is people were saying, don't use the Black Lives Matter hashtag, but do post resources, do post information, make it so painfully obvious that, you know, people can't look away.
Yeah.
That I completely agreed with. But the whole like, oh, you shouldn't be on social media today. No, I don't agree, because you're not really doing anything. You're not really helping anything.
Yeah, that's why I really like the what was it called? When like Ty Simpson was on Yoga with Adrian's Instagram account.
Oh, the share the mic thing?
The share the mic. I thought that was a lot better than being silent, because they were still reaching people who might not have known about Hippie Heathen on Instagram. And I felt that that was much more effective than asking someone like Yoga with Adrian to be silent, because as you said, people would have just noticed that she hadn't said anything. They wouldn't really know where that left them or how she stood on the issue.
One thing I'll say about the share the mic, I was all for it, except when they started asking, except when the Sisters of Yoga started asking their followers to follow the white yogis. Why?
Yeah. I know, right?
I didn't follow any of them. I'm just like, why would I do that? They already.
I was so confused. Followers. Exactly, and it was one of those like instances where once again Black women are expected to do the emotional labor for someone else. Because I was like, no, the share the mic thing is not for Sisters of Yoga followers. It is for the other people's followers who don't know about Sisters of Yoga to then follow you.
Yeah.
You know, this is not a mutual exchange.
No, it's not. We're good. We understand that we're not seen in the media. We understand that we don't get equal access or equal representation. Like, we understand how we're affected. Yeah. This is not an issue that we're not like privy to. But also, I went and I hopped around some of the pages of the women who participated in the Share the Mic weekend. And we'll get back to the fact that it was held on a weekend. Most of them posted the flyer in their stories, not in their on their page. And that bothered me too. So I'm just like, okay. Or like, or they would post it as like the second picture of their page. I want to see it, like, it should be, you should have made like 3 posts with just that flyer, so that way your like followers know this is coming up. And then what kind of was just like iffy to me was them hosting it on the weekend. No one is on Instagram on the weekend. If you look at some of the larger pages, they don't bother posting on the weekend for a reason, because you don't get as many engagements or interaction.
Oh my.
So like that weekend, I tried to remember, I'm not going to lie, I forgot. I don't open social media as much on the weekends. And I don't know if the algorithm just doesn't work, because I feel like when I open it, I'm seeing the exact same thing I saw on Friday. So sometimes I just don't even bother looking. But I was just like, okay, but why do it on the weekend where there's less interaction? Why not do it Tuesday through Thursday?
Yeah, because even with my insights, my greatest interaction is on Wednesday night.
During the midweek, when people are actually online.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But to be honest, was just that's annoying.
Yeah.
That it was on the weekend, because I forgot. I completely forgot. I think I probably tuned into like 5 minutes of one and then got distracted doing something else.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, because I think the Share the Mic that Hippie Heathen was in was like the second or third one that they've done. And I didn't tune in to either of the first ones because I didn't know who the people were.
Okay. On both sides?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think out of the 2 sets of them, the only person I knew was Brene Brown. And controversial statement, I'm not a huge fan.
I don't know who that is.
she's very TED famous. She does a lot of stuff about bravery and courage, and I just
Okay.
if you find someone who likes her, they will rave endlessly about her, but I am not into her. I don't find what she says in her TED Talks very profound.
Renee, is that who you said it was?
No, Brene.
I really don't know who that is.
She's written a lot of books as well. I think like her official title is that she's a researcher of shame.
I'm gonna look though and see.
Look up her TED Talk. She has lots of TED Talks, and most people know her, and they have her books. And I tried to watch her movie on Netflix, and I think I got about 5 minutes in, and I just. But yeah, so I knew her, and I was like, well, I'm not a huge fan, and I don't really care. So I was like, I'm glad you're doing it. I'm sure it'll help someone, but you know, I tend to follow more radical pages.
True. Which is understandable.
Anyway, we're digressing a bit.
Yes, we
are. Right. So the other parallel I wanted to draw is that, well, obviously it's been drawn for me. A lot of people on social media started posting an infographic that says the black and white picture is the black square of the women's movement in Turkey. How did you feel about that?
Again, I don't agree. Yeah. Because at least with the black square, it was speaking on something. The black and white pictures had no basis. Well, the black and white pictures as they were co-opted had no basis.
True.
So there was no conversation happening. For a lot of people that posted the black square, there was no conversation, but they got called out. And they were like, people legit were just like, okay, thank you for the black square. What's next?
Yeah, exactly.
But with this, because we didn't know what it was about, it was kind of hard to call people out initially until people found out what it was about.
And when people found out, like based on what you've seen on your own timeline and your feed, what was the reaction?
So, I know quite a few of like the Instagram famous yogis personally because of where I live. And a lot of them did participate in the challenge. And once it came out what the challenge is about, most of them, I have to go back and check and see today if they've changed anything, but most of them didn't find it necessary to take down the picture or to change their caption or to pretty much do anything to say, hey, whoops, made a mistake, but now I know better. They pretty much just ignored it. The same way I ignored the challenge initially, they ignored the truth behind the challenge after it came out.
Gosh, I mean, and that's another thing why I love my little social network on Instagram, because the minute I started sharing the information that I got from Valerie, a lot of people were like, oh, you know, I didn't know the context of this challenge, but thank you so much to, you know, at these accounts for educating me. And they either uploaded a new picture or edited it.
So those people are where? Based in the UK?
Some in the UK and some in US.
Okay, so my people are only in the US. And for the people that did eventually change, like one person, after I made my post, it was not a black and white picture because I just don't think it was necessary to do that. You can still speak about the issue and educate your circles. You don't need to be seen in the, like, you don't need to be a part of necessarily.
It's not about you.
No, but you do need to educate your circle. And that's what I thought like was important for me, to educate the people that I know. But when I made my post talking about femicide in Turkey, I had someone I know comment below it and just be like, I can't remember what exactly she said, but she didn't agree. So I didn't really want to call her out on my story or on my post because I know her personally, and two, I don't need any negativity under my post, right? So I spoke to her in the DMs and she was just like, you know, she did not appreciate whoever called her out on the black and white picture, and she felt like they were bullying her to change her caption or to take down the picture. And I was like, okay, well, what did they say? Because you're saying someone is bullying you, right? Which is a pretty loaded word. What did they say to bully you? She said they sent her links about what was happening and they told her that she was pretty much being ignorant or whatever for sharing the picture and not talking about the issue. And I was like, okay, so how exactly was that being bullied, or how was that them bullying you? And she's like, oh, you know, I have no problem being educated or being corrected. I was like, okay, but you're saying you felt bullied. How exactly were you bullied?
Mm-hmm.
I told her, I'm just like, oh, this is the part that got me. She said she felt like the way that they corrected her was defeating the purpose or clouding the purpose of the challenge.
Really?
Yes. And I got really heated from that. So I stepped away from my phone for a little bit, caught my breath, and then came back. And I was just like, I think that you posting the black and white picture initially is what clouded the original purpose of that challenge, not someone correcting you for making a mistake.
Absolutely. And then being presented with the information.
And still not wanting. She said that she was too busy. I was like, but you weren't too busy to post the picture initially, but now you're too busy to get corrected. I mean, so then we had a whole discussion on ego, and I don't know if it made a difference to her, but
I don't think so, but
I doubt it. But to me, she was speaking from ego, and I don't know if it's how I was raised. Like, I was raised with tough love. So for me, being corrected doesn't really bother me. Like, I'm so used to someone saying, that's wrong. Let's try again. And I don't take it personally. Like, I don't know everything. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. Like, I don't know everything. It irks me. Not irks me. It confuses me when people don't like being corrected, because you will never know everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even when I shared the article that I found about the whole reason behind the black and white picture, a doctor friend of mine, Carl Osden, shared a live counter. I didn't realize it. There's a website with a live counter in English and in Turkish of the number of women and the names who have been killed because of domestic violence. And like, I just told her, I was like, thank you so much for sharing that, because that really drives the point home.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't sit there and be like, you shouldn't post another resource under my resource. It's like, no, that's what social media is for. It's for sharing information. Yep. And that's why I knew I had to bring you on the podcast, because when you sent me the story from Yoga with Brittany, I think it's her handle.
Yeah.
And she was talking about, there's nothing wrong with empowering women. Yes, there was obviously a much bigger issue that we found out about, but the way that some of you are calling us out is not helpful. And I'm like, people are dying. It's obviously a very emotionally charged thing when people are dying. Yeah. So I'm sorry if people dying is, too much for you to handle. But that's the message so someone from Turkey who knows what the black and white photo is about, when they see your photo with no information about the femicide, that is the reaction that I would expect them to have. I would expect them to be like, you're being ignorant for sharing this without the information. You're not even saying the woman's name. Like, that's the emotion I would expect. And if I was in her position, I would humbly be like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I will change it right now.
Exactly. But that's what I thought was really funny with her entire story, is she's saying that they're not being ignorant because they didn't know. And I told her, like, I honestly responded to her and I said, the definition of ignorant means not knowing. So by the definition of the word, you are being ignorant. Is what you do with that ignorance is where the issue begins, or where the issue is. And I also told her, like, you being ignorant, you not knowing about something does not make you a bad person. Because I feel like that was the root of her entire story. It was her not wanting to be called, remember the whole R word, racist? She didn't want to be called a bad person, right? Mm-hmm.
And I also found it really bizarre that she did the whole story in a black and white filter, because if her whole story was about her and how she felt. Yeah. The couple of slides where she was talking about the actual reason for the black and white challenge, I was like, yeah, I could get that. But then afterwards, she was like, there's nothing wrong with empowering women. And I think it's fine if people didn't know the original meaning, but they're using it to spread positivity. And I was like, there is such a thing as toxic positivity,
That too.
Because the thing is, it's snowballs. So I saw there was one person who was tagged in the challenge, and her response to it was, oh, you know how this challenge is all about uplifting women? Well, why don't we tag 5 women-owned businesses instead of just women? And I was like, I mean, you could, but then you're not really talking about the Istanbul Convention.
Yeah.
you know? And I was just like, listen, there's nothing stopping you. This is the issue I had. There's nothing stopping you from empowering women. I'm in a group called Black Empowers Black, which is why this podcast is called BEB Talks.
Mm-hmm.
And we empower each other. We give us each other words of affirmation. Mm-hmm. I don't need to wait for a special day or someone to challenge me to give empowerment to another Black woman.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, oh, let's use this challenge to do this. It's like, well, you could have done that any day of the week.
And on your own. Don't like co-opt someone else's.
Yeah, exactly.
And something as important as this is just...
Yeah. And the thing that gagged me the most was I went back to, you know, when I was designing the layout for the podcast, mm-hmm. I went back to see if she had taken it down, if she got any hate from it, if she did any responses, if she got loads of interactions from it. And she must have had a lot of interactions because she saved it as a highlight.
Which is crazy to me. Like, how, like, that's beyond ignorance.
Black and white filter and all. She saved it in her highlight. I was like, oh, you really meant what you said.
Like, you take privilege to another level with that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. The thing that threw me off the most is if you watched her stories, it literally went, women are dying in Turkey and it's really awful. But it's okay to use the social media campaign to raise awareness of that, to empower other women and make them feel good. Regular yoga photos.
But I don't get how, and this is one thing that I didn't understand, was how you guys are saying that it's okay for you to co-opt this to empower other women. How is it empowering other women? Like, if you could have given me a really, really good reason or explanation of how posting a picture of yourself and tagging your friends was empowering someone else, then I would say, you know what? It's still not okay, but I understand, but still correct it. But how is that empowering anyone? You're not sharing anything that empowered anyone. You're not sharing words of affirmation. Or like for the people who did that whole nonsense with the businesses, you shared or tagged businesses, but did not even post what the business was about. Like, how exactly are you empowering anyone?
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of people don't know what empowerment is. So a lot of...
It means a couple likes on Instagram.
Apparently, the people who sent me the challenge, like they didn't just copy and paste, like they personalized things about me that they either admired or loved or wanted to encourage. Like they actually gave me words of affirmation, and I was like, even though I already posted about it, but I was like, oh my God, thank you. I was having an awful day. Thank you so much for telling me that. And I was like, yeah, like I get that part of it. But when people are like, oh, I just got tagged, and apparently this is about empowering women, so here's me at my best angle, you know?
You know what's fun? One thing, with Yoga with Brittany, when she did that, that was in the middle of a challenge I was participating in. And that's how I found her page, is through a challenge. Mm-hmm. And I saw it and I commented. I responded to her DMs. She did not respond to me, but it was a small challenge. There weren't that many people on it. The challenge ended maybe last week. And this is probably just speaking out of my ego, but I thought I should have won. And I was picked as the second winner, right? Mm-hmm. So actually, I went back and I asked, because at this point, like, it's social media. I know a lot of people they put Instagram and everything, people with more than 10,000 followers on this pedestal. But I mean, what are you going to do? You're not about to get me fired for me asking a question. So I have to hear the I'm like, hey, why didn't I win? I, of course, said it a lot nicer than that. But I asked why I didn't win. And she was like, oh, we picked people who put a lot of effort in their captions and their pictures and were creative. I was like, okay, cool. Okay. And because my pictures were creative, I had different captions for each one. I did not just post quotes. I took my time. You definitely
put a lot of effort in.
Yes. I used one to call her out. But like I put a whole lot of effort in. I was just like, so, okay, and what else? And then she's like, oh, well, it was you and the other person, and we pretty much like picked it out of a hat or some nonsense. I was like, oh, okay. I've never heard that before. And the thing is, I just hopped in the DMs of another one of the persons who hosted the challenge, and I asked. I was just like, hey, so I'm just wondering why I didn't win. And she said, we all loved you. And the person who hosted the challenge inevitably picked the winner. So everyone suggested who they thought should have won, and then the person who hosted, Brittany, picked the winner.
Oh.
So it wasn't a random choosing.
Oh.
And I was just like, okay, thank you so much. I was like, okay, thank you. No problem. And the thing is, I'm not going to lie, I didn't want to join the challenge because of who the winner, the
host,
not host, who the sponsors were. Right. So one of the sponsors is this white owned brand. And if you look on the Instagram page, it's all white, everything. They have a couple Black people, but they're as whitewashed or as close to white as possible. And they're little kids. No grown Black women, even though the line is more so marketed towards women. And when I saw it, I was just like, I should not even bother participating in this challenge. But you know what? Like, my thing for this year is to not make myself small. So I was like, you know what? I am going to participate, and I'm going to do, like, I'm going to give this my very best effort and make sure that I'm in everyone's face with this challenge. And I did that. And what's funny is a lot of the hosts, like Brittany followed me back, and so did some of the other hosts. And I was just like, okay, cool. So at least, you know, there's one Black person on their radar. And because of that challenge, there's a lot of like white women that would not have found me before following me now. And I don't know if they're going to stay. They're probably going to get annoyed by all of my pro-Black stuff. But hey, I'm Black.
Yeah, exactly. Get used to it.
Yep.
But I mean, that's one thing I find really funny, because I find specifically for women racialized as white, and I prefer using that to calling them white people when I'm in a good mood.
Cool.
But whenever you talk about white privilege, white women will be like, oh no, I haven't got privilege, you know, I don't make that much money, I don't have that much clothes. They don't see things like being able to pick the winner of a yoga challenge as being in a position of privilege.
Yeah.
You know, they don't understand that as a Black woman, or a woman racialized as Black participating in this challenge, you have the prize I'm going for doesn't represent me. The audience that I'm doing this with doesn't represent me. I am doing it for myself and any other sister that comes up afterwards. Like, that is not even on their agenda. So when they're like, you too aggressive, so I'm not going to give you the praise.
Yeah.
You know, it like that has so much more significance than they realize. And then the minute you call them in on it rather than out, they're like, oh no, why do you have to make everything about race? You know, that's not what the reason was at all. And it's like, well, no, that wasn't the reason. But it definitely murkies the water.
I didn't even bother, honestly, with her because of her post with what was happening in Turkey. I didn't bother. I just wanted to get it in writing, her reason why it wasn't chosen. I didn't bother because there's some people that want to be educated and are open to being educated, and then there's those who believe they already know it all. And to me, I don't think it's my place to be educating anybody. I have my own struggles to deal with. There's enough resources out there. Google is a click, not even a click. Google is a command away. Oh yeah. It's not my place to be educating you. And I just like for people like her, God be with you, you know, all the best. When you get to those pearly gates, you deal with that.
Exactly. And you know, the thing that I find really interesting about this whole dynamic of, I mean, there's that argument that as a person of color, it's your responsibility to educate people racialized as white. And I'm just like, nah.
No, it ain't.
You know why? It's because in some instances, you're their first Black person. And they will probably not see another one for a little bit, but this is not your first white person.
Exactly.
And it's
my first roommate, my first roommate, my first year in college, she told me to my face, oh my God, you're like the first Black person I've ever met. And she's like, well, not really. I had one guy in school that was Black. And then she showed me a picture of her class. I couldn't pick the guy out. I was like, oh wow. Cool. And she's just like, but you're like the first Black person I know. And the rest of that semester was hell because I felt like I was constantly having to explain things to her because she took everything I did as racialized.
Exactly.
Yep. I hated that. I'm just like, you know, this is not going to work for me. I got to be moved because this is not my place. I did not come to college to teach anybody. I came to college to learn.
I know. And let me tell you something that's really funny. When I was in medical school, and I do apologize if the person I'm about to talk to listens to this podcast, but never mind. There was only 2 Black women, myself and another girl. And every time she spoke to me, it would be, I kid you not, shea butter, about doing hair. Because I used to put in crochet braids for her.
Okay.
About, basketball wives, about
Oh
housewives.
God.
Yeah, and like, I mean, it was all stuff that I could relate to. But I remember one day I was thinking in my head, I was like, she does not know how to just talk to me.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
like, because there was one time actually we were at a house party and she was talking about Bonnet Chronicles, and I was like, oh my God, I love Tammy Roman. She's so funny. And um, a mutual friend of ours was listening in on the conversation, and she was going, oh my God, I just wish that I had someone like Amber that I could just talk about these things with, because other people don't know them. Because I knew as soon as she said Bonnet Chronicles, I knew exactly who she was talking about, but no one else
Mm-hmm.
knew. And so the mutual friend just looked at her and he was like, why didn't you just call her? I was like, yeah, why don't you just call me? Or is it because you don't want me to be your black friend? Ooh.
Oop, oop, oop. That's
And she
funny.
never called.
Obviously, she wouldn't.
But I just thought it's so funny. I remember there was one time she was telling me about this like mixture that she had found that was really good for hair growth. And I was like, I know it's a commonly held black stereotype to want long hair, but at the time I had dreads to the middle of my back and I was getting ready to cut them.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want long hair. She was like, oh, okay. And just like walked away. And I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in your mixture because I don't want long hair.
It's so weird that whole black women wanting long hair, because white women as they get older keep cutting their hair. So I don't get this whole need for black women to feel like they're a woman by having long hair. Who cares?
And I was talking about this in another podcast I do, Conversations on Being Human.
Oh, cool.
Where my friend Kendra was asking, she's like, "Oh, what's it like to be you?" And I was no, she was asking me a question about my ideal future. That's right. And I was like, I would love for my race to not dictate everything people think they know about me before I even open my mouth.
True.
As soon as they go, oh, the black girl, they already have all these assumptions, these stereotypes, these caricatures that I then have to work around. And I'm just like, I just want to be Amber, who happens to be racialized as black.
Yeah.
Give me some wiggle room. Let me be me.
Yeah. And it's funny because we do that to other minorities, but no one does that to phenotypically white people.
Mm-hmm.
And I say phenotypically white people because there are black people that are passing that get the same privilege.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's interesting. It's so interesting. Because I feel like the color of my skin does not really dictate me, who I am as a person, so much so as my ethnicity. Like where I'm from, to me, you can assume a whole lot about me from where I'm from, more so than the color of my skin. Like I was on Twitter today and I saw someone ask, why do people wear, or like what kind of people wear Crocs outside? And the person responded and said, Atolian. I was like, I laughed because I literally had on Crocs. Like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Because I still wear Crocs up here. I don't care. I wear them everywhere. They're so comfy. And they're supposed to be like a house shoe, but we literally wear them everywhere.
Well, I thought they were supposed to be a boat shoe. I thought that's where they came from.
In Tortola, we ain't going on, well, we do go on boats, but we ain't going on boats when we walk into town with Crocs on.
That's true. And I mean, that's one of the things why I like accounts like yours, and what I try to do with my social media account is I try to just be myself. Like, you know how everyone's account, and especially the Instagram famous yogi people, it's so like manicured and the layouts and all the rest of it. I'm like, no, I want you to come to my account and be like, wow, this person is like multifaceted and interesting, and they do all of this stuff, but it's mainly yoga, but also some activism and stuff like that.
Yep. I had someone say to me, oh, you shouldn't post the black square. And I was like, okay, cool. So when I posted something else about Black Lives Matter as well, I'm just like, I don't care. Like, who cares what your feed looks like if it doesn't like show, if it's not a reflection of who you are?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway.
I don't care. And I like my captions, like that one caption I posted, it was when the whole Black Lives Matter thing first started, and I posted, like, I'm not here to be a palatable black woman. I made that post because people were like in my DM saying, you know, you need to be careful. Your page is growing. You're becoming like a face people will become like or known in the yoga community online. You should be careful with what you say. So I was like, okay, thanks for the advice. And then I wrote that and posted it because I'm just like, I don't care. Like every day that I wake up, I'm Black. And if that's an issue for you, then you have every right to unfollow me. You have every right to stop associating with me. Like that's perfectly, that's for you to decide. Yeah. But it's not for me to decide to change who I am or to soften who I am to make you feel comfortable.
Exactly. And I feel like that in itself is another expression of privilege. Because take, for example, someone like Jessamine Stanley, like, because like she's cool with the white folk, like she could be herself, she could do whatever she wants. And then when she started talking about legalizing cannabis and polyamory, all of a sudden people were like, oh no, we don't like it when you do that.
Yep. You need to
and she had a similar attitude.
Yep.
It's so bizarre. Anyway, as we're coming closer to the end, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think about using social media for social justice campaigns? You know, we've seen so many instances where the story has been like an online version of telephone, where it's been diluted, been lost. Nobody knows what they're reposting anymore. They just want to be trending.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's the way of the future?
I think it's a necessary evil we need to learn to work with. Mm-hmm. So, and it's also very useful. Like, to be honest, how many of us would have found out about the femicide in Turkey? When I open my news, because I do check BBC and I check CNN, but less and less lately.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll hop on some other international news sites, but my day-to-day is BBC. I did not see that on BBC until it became popular in social media or online. And the truth is, like, because of Instagram, we're able to see a lot more of what's happening in the world. So I actually love that activism is being done online. It should not stop to your news feed or to your social media feed. It should go further than that. But to me, it's a great start, and at least like for people to see what's going on and for them to become aware of what's happening. And then it's your decision if you want to learn more. It's your decision if you want to act on it. It's your decision if you want to be a global citizen or not. Like, it's up to you to then act. Yeah. So I'm for it. One thing I will say is I wish more people would fact check. Like, we have Google. You Google everything else. Like, you Google absolute bull. You can Google the facts behind something before you share it. Like, it takes 2 seconds before you repost anything to just Google it. Like, when people first said that, God, what is his name? When someone died and he hadn't died, I'm just like, if you taken 2 seconds to Google it, you would have seen he was alive. Like, it doesn't take anything from you to just Google something instead of just trying to be like on trend or whatever, resharing something before knowing what it's about. And it saves you from looking like an idiot too.
Absolutely.
So all the women with the black and white pictures.
Oh, I know. I've gotten into the habit of, if I see a post about something, I save it. And then when I have the time to actually sit down, mentally process what it's in, what's in the caption, read it properly, research what's happening, then I will repost it or whatever. There's some stuff waiting in my repost folder for like weeks now.
Yeah, I do that too on Instagram because you can save things to folders. I save things to folders to check. Literally, I have a folder called fact check. And I'm like, as soon as I check it, I'll post it because I do actually like what they're saying. But let me make sure it's like correct before.
Yeah, exactly. Before you just
I share misinformation.
Because that's how things spread out of control.
Yeah. And I think we all have a responsibility to make sure that what we're saying and what we're sharing is as close to the truth as possible.
Absolutely.
Be impeccable with your words.
Absolutely. Although he then went on to talk about black magic and black evil and but never mind. It was just one page. The reason why the black square really triggered me for other reasons. But the black and white picture was just like a secondary trauma. So the reason why I was so critical of the black square is because there was this festival called the Fire Festival.
Yes.
Right. Let me tell you what happened, why I was so triggered. The Fire Festival promo was that they paid a bunch of social media influencers thousands of dollars. Like, I'm talking tens of thousands to post this orange square with no caption. It just said Fire Festival. And with just that, they got ticket sales.
Yeah.
With just an orange square and then like a few months later a promo video, they got loads of sales. Now, when it all went belly up and they realized that the guy Billy was a scam artist, the people of the Bahamas who were then left to clean up this mess lost a lot of money, including like their government, their Ministry of Tourism lost a lot of money. And so people were like, yo, influencer who posted the orange square, you got paid like 10 grand for this, right? Would you mind giving it back to these people?
Yeah.
And all of them took the square down and they said, we didn't know what it was about. We didn't even go. We're not responsible. And I'm just like, yeah, but you got paid with money that you really don't need.
Yeah.
And these people are out here hurting. So I was like, if you're going to post anything, even if it's just a monochrome square, you need to take responsibility for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the word of advice I have for any person of privilege. If you're going to use your platform to spread awareness of anything, make sure that you
yourself are aware. Exactly.
Because I remember even Amanda Seals was raising awareness about this guy on death row. And then she found out that the guy had like sexually assaulted a bunch of women. Yeah. And that the people who were campaigning to free him weren't necessarily doing it for kosher reasons and the facts didn't quite line up. She was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I messed up. I should have fact checked. I was like, yeah.
And that to me is the right step. You're going to mess up. We're human. You are going to mess up. Sometimes some people will mess up willfully because they refuse to do the research. But to me, it's a really great step to say, I messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first step. And then hopefully you grow to learn to change and actually do some research. But if not, at least, I hate when people are so arrogant that they don't think that they need to apologize for making a mistake. And especially if you have influence. If you have more than one person following you and it's not your mother, you have influence.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And you have a responsibility with that influence.
Absolutely. Because I feel like a lot of social media influencers live in this like Schrodinger's box where they both have influence and also don't have any responsibility.
Yep. When it's beneficial to them, they can compare themselves to the greats or like the most important people in the world. And when it's beneficial to them, they're back to social media. It's just online. It's not real. It's not serious. They have no responsibility. They're not culpable.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why I was like kind of half grateful, half not about Facebook putting policies in place to prevent the spreading of fake news. Although when
Trump
AOC was then asking Mark Zuckerberg, so will you take down lies? And he was like, well, we have these facts in place, and if we have checkers doing it, and she's like, oh, so are the checkers doing factual checks? And they were like, well, no, that's not how it works. And I was like, so are you taking down lies or not, bro?
But I don't think their thing works because I had one of my videos flagged. Apparently, their thing can't tell the difference between brown skin and black pants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there's no one checking it. It's just a computer. And when I tried to report it as incorrect, they're just like, oh, COVID-19, we don't have enough people working. So I'm just like, okay, but you flagged my account now as if I posted nudity and I'm fully dressed, like fully dressed. And there's no way for me to correct this. And
That's
yet
crazy.
Trump can post a ton of nonsense. Well, he's now being corrected. But before, Trump can post a ton of nonsense and have no one correct him. I don't know. We need real people doing work instead of just computers.
No, I agree with you 100%. Because even like I had a post taken down on my Facebook and my Instagram from BBC Scotland. And it was a video I had reposted of BBC Scotland. And I put hashtag repost at BBC Scotland, like I tagged them in it. And apparently they put in a complaint that I was using their work without credit. And I was like,
what?
It has BBC Scotland all over it.
Do they not know what the reposting is, or?
I don't know. And it was like from weeks ago. I think that actually they had something else because it was a video about the buildings in Scotland being renamed with some of the slave names or the names of slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, when I first saw this video, I thought it was hilarious because you're complaining about a street being named after a slave owner. How about you as a person? Ha ha ha.
I remember because I commented under that.
Yeah, that is taken down now. I was like, I ain't even gonna fight it because you're gonna do what you want anyway.
Yeah, privilege.
Yeah. On that note, any closing comments?
Mostly that we all have a responsibility to, if we're going to share or we're going to be a social activist online, you do need to do your fact checking, and be as honest and as upfront as you possibly can. And if you make a mistake, just apologize and do better.
Mm-hmm.
You're not above making errors.
Absolutely. And the only advice I would add on to that is that you are the curator of your own feed. Treat your life like a museum. If somebody is posting some mess and you decide out of the goodness of your heart you're going to try educate them and they just pile even more mess on you, just unfollow them. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just,
social media is not, as much as it is the real world, it's not. It's a boy you have control of.
Yeah, and like I remember a friend of mine gave me the argument, oh, you can't just get rid of people in real life. It's like, yeah, you can. I've done it loads of times, even before social media. You just like, I don't like that person, I'm not gonna hang out with them.
We're all talking about self-care now. Like, the same way you're quick to buy something to help your self-care, you can create your life to help your self-care. Don't keep toxic people around you.
Exactly. Absolutely. Right. Thank you very much, Bella, for joining the podcast. I hope we have you back soon.
Yes, just let me know. And thank you for staying up to have this call with me.
No, it's my pleasure. And would you like to drop your social so people know where to find you?
Oh yeah, my bad. So you can find me on Instagram at _Bella Rosa. That's LA_BELLAROSSA on Instagram. I don't really use anything else, so feel free to follow me. Don't expect to see me. It's the same handle, so you can find me everywhere else. But again, I don't use it. Follow me on IG. Send me a message. Let me know Amber sent you.
Yeah, and Bella is doing a course of yoga for complete beginners.
Yes, and it's only for August. I go back to a regular schedule in September. So if you want to try yoga, give it a chance. It's 3 different classes a week. Mondays is vinyasa. Wednesdays are yin or restorative. And then Thursdays we get upside down.
Nice.
Yeah. So you get a little taste of everything. That's not everything, but of some of what's out there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Bella. And I will speak to you soon.
Alrighty. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to another episode of BEB Talks. Don't forget to like and share the podcast if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment with some feedback or a topic for a future discussion. And you can follow us on YouTube at BEB Talks or on Facebook at Black Empowers Black. Till next time.